everyone, I'm Shannon with J&S King Family Farm, and we're happy to have you here today. Welcome to the grow room in my basement. So today I thought I would stop in and talk to you a little bit about fungus gnats. Everybody's into starting seedlings now, and what I've noticed is now fungus gnats seem to be a bit of an issue, especially if you're a new grower. You're like, what's going on? What are these little bugs? And they are kind of gross. I'm with you on that. So fungus gnats, they're the same kind of family as a mosquito, as a fruit fly. If you've had fruit flies in your house, they're the same family. Okay, they're different species, but they're the same family. So we can treat them the same way. Essentially, they come in the soil. I don't think that any one soil is particularly better than another. I'm not a big fan of sterile mixes, so the suggestion that you can use a sterile mix, or you can sterilize the mix at home by baking it essentially and killing that, you can do that. It's not something I do. Essentially, they are a symptom of overwatering your plants. And if you've started enough seedlings over the years, you're going to deal with these guys. If you have houseplants, you're going to deal with these things. So for your houseplants, the easiest way to deal with them is to put a mulch on the top of your soil, and that prevents them from getting into the soil and laying eggs in the soil, because one fungus gnat lives about a week and they can lay hundreds of eggs. So there's a couple of ways to deal with them. We're going to put the mulch on top of your houseplants. The easiest way to do that is like a chipped stone. They need to have really nice fertile soil. And of course, we've got nice houseplants with nice soil, and we fertilize them, and fungus gnats love it. And so what happens is they lay in the soil, the gnats larva, and I'll put a picture up here for you so you can see it. They look like little silver threads. They make me gag a little bit. They're gross. And, which is funny because most things don't make me gag, but they do. Gross little wormy things. What they do though is they feed on the root system, and they feed on the root hairs, and they will eventually kill your plant if you don't deal with them. And they do the same thing in your seedlings. And when your seedlings are young, they're very susceptible to root damage, and it'll just wipe them right out. The other issue with them, if you allow them to continue, is they spread disease. So if you start having like damping off issues in trays, particularly with microgreens, they will just spread fungus and you wipe out a whole tray of microgreens, which I've had happen. It's awful. So what we're going to do with your houseplants is there's a couple of options to kill the larva. One of them is to use hydrogen peroxide. This is a 3% solution. Yes, this is a 3% solution. I buy this at Costco in a box of 4. I actually use this on some of my trays when I'm doing microgreens. When I spray to water them, I use a solution of this for the beginning of my trays to kind of help combat any issues, particularly with like cilantro, which is really bad for molding and damping off. So you use this 1 part hydrogen peroxide to 4 parts water. Water your plant until it runs out the bottom, okay? You want to make sure it goes right through the whole root system, and then when it's done, you're going to take that water and dump it. So whatever you do, don't leave water sitting in the saucers under your houseplants, because that's going to cause more fungus gnats to appear, right? Because like mosquitoes, they like standing water, moist, humid, warm environments. So we want to just kind of destroy the habitat. Then you're going to mulch the top of your houseplants with stone chips, and that will prevent them from laying eggs in. And then the other thing you're going to get, because we need to stop the life cycle, and I've got one of these little sticky traps from last year. That's gross because it's got fungus gnats on it. You're going to stop the adults. So this is a sticky trap with fungus gnats on. You can see how tiny they are, right? They're not big at all. And they do so much damage. So you're going to stick one of these. You buy these at Canadian Tire. I'll put the link down below so you can find them. Stick this in your plant. It's going to deal with the adults so that they can't lay eggs in the soil. And it's going to take a couple of weeks. You're going to water your plants with that peroxide once a week. The peroxide solution, make sure you dilute it, okay? once a week, and this is going to deal with the adults. You're going to have to do it for a couple of weeks to kind of break that life cycle up, okay? So that's how you deal with it on houseplants. It happens. They're gross. But, I mean, try not to overwater your plants when you've dealt with the issue. That should really help by not overwatering your plants. I make sure that the top 1 to 2 inches of soil in my houseplants is dry before I water. And that really helps. So the other thing, when you're doing seedlings, they get into your seedling trays. You can get those sticky traps. You hang it on your grow rack. Sometimes I can only get the little spikes, so I just stick them in a couple of trays around, and that deals with the adults. And then once a week, we're going to water with, now if you can only get the hydrogen peroxide, same solution, right? 1 part hydrogen peroxide, 4 parts water, and you're going to water your trays with that, and that's going to do it. The other option that you can get, and you buy it at Canadian Tire, is Mosquito Dunks. And Mosquito Dunks, they're like a donut type shape. And what I would do with them is crush them up so that you can, blend them with your water a little bit better. So Mosquito Dunks are a biological control. They are not a synthetic chemical insecticide. They're a bacterium. I got a notepad so I can remember this. So what you're looking for is BTI, which is Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis. And I'll put it on the screen so you can look it up. Okay? And it's not to be confused with BTK, not the serial killer, which is Bacillus thuringiensis Christaki. That is a control that we use outside to kill the caterpillars that eat things like your cabbages, broccoli, all your brassicas, right? So we're not talking about BTK, we're talking about BTI. And this, you're going to dilute it as per the instructions. Now, the mosquito dunks are kind of designed to be thrown in a pond. So BTI is getting harder to get in Canada. It's a controlled insecticide. Part of the problem with using them outside is that there's a bit of a knock-on effect that if you kill all the mosquitoes and all the black flies, because it kills everything at the larval stage, you also affect the species that eat those things. So you're kind of affecting the ecosystem. So I prefer not to use those things outside. I also don't use sticky traps outside because those yellow sticky traps, as great as they are for picking up things like cucumber beetles and stuff like that, they will also pick up your beneficial insects. So we try not to do that. The BTI, it kills, if you put it in your pond, it kills mosquito larvae, it kills black fly larvae. And what happens is that the species that eat those things lose their food source. So you have a bit of an issue there. But for inside purposes, I think they're just fine. And I don't have a problem using them. So the mosquito dunks, you dilute it into your water like a teaspoon in a gallon. I mean, it doesn't use a lot. So I have BTI, but I have it in a form called Vectobac. Now, I purchased this on eBay a couple of years ago. This is 200 grams, and it goes a long way. So it's a little expensive, okay? It's a little pricey. In Canada, it's Vectobac, and I'm just trying to think here. Looking for the instructions on this. I love it says read the label, but there's nothing on it that actually tells me. I use a teaspoon in a gallon. So this is a powder form. So essentially, the mosquito dunk is like a compressed version of this. You can just see it in there. It's just a powder. Works great. Does the job. 200 grams will last you forever, especially if you're a home grower. So if you can find this and you split it with some friends, I mean, it'd be great. I use it as a preventative maintenance because I just don't want to deal with fungus gnats. If they get into my soil and destroy my seedlings, I am in so much trouble. So once a week in my water, I water with this. I use this as a preventative. I don't use it outside, but this works. In the United States, it is sold under the brand name Gnatrol, and I'll put that up on the screen so you can look for it. Again, I found it on eBay. I know the Gardener's Workshop, I'm pretty sure she sells it. So I'll put that down in the links for US sellers. She does not ship into Canada, which is unfortunate, but it's a real pain in the butt for her. and she's a small business. But if you're in the US, check her site out. It's really great. But for Canadians, the Mosquito Dunks are the most economical way of getting the BTI so that you can deal with fungus gnats. So, and then again, don't overwater your seedlings. So now when you're dealing with things, one of the problems I have with it is that when I'm trying to get Lysianthus, which is a really tiny, like microscopic seed, to germinate, I really have to keep that soil moist until they get going, because otherwise it can't shed the seed coat. And so then I start dealing with issues with fungus gnats. So I just preventative maintenance once a week in my water. So on Mondays I fertilize, and on Wednesdays I use this, and that's how I do it. But I think for most home growers, all you need to use is the BTI available in Mosquito Dunks. What are they? Mosquito bits. They're sold as mosquito bits sometimes as well, although I haven't seen those in a while. But yeah, the Mosquito Dunks, they work just fine. But you can crush them up, add them to your water, let it sit, for like 24 hours, and then use that water to water your plants. And it will allow the bacteria that is BTI to get into your soil, and it will actually kill the fungus gnats before they can eat your roots on your seedlings. So, I mean, it happens to everybody. They're kind of gross, I know. It's just the joy of starting seeds in your house. So, and if you've ever had fruit flies in your house, you know what a pain in the butt they are to get rid of. So I prefer the preventative maintenance than trying to deal with them when they appear. That just works for me. And hopefully this helps you out. Oh, one thing, if you find online, and I'll link it below because I've seen it, there is a beneficial nematode that you can also get. I haven't tried them, so I don't really know how they work, but you cannot use the beneficial nematodes and flood your soil with hydrogen peroxide, because you will kill the beneficial nematodes, okay? So you got to pick one or the other on that one. But if you're just having a slight problem and you can't get out to the store and you've got hydrogen peroxide, I would give that a try. And then the next time you go to town, get the sticky traps, because the sticky traps are going to help you break that life cycle. And it's going to take a couple of weeks, okay? Because once they're going, right, it takes a couple of weeks, and they don't all hatch at the same time. So you end up with, a couple of weeks worth of stupid fungus gnats that are kind of gross and flying in your face when you're trying to water your seedlings. So like I said, they have about a 1 week life cycle, and they can do a lot of damage in a week. So I hope this helps you guys. This is not a synthetic chemical, so it's food safe. There's nothing wrong with using this. It's not going to hurt your cat or your dog if they get into it in your houseplants. I prefer not to use that type of stuff outside because of the knock-on effects with the ecosystem, because of killing off the fungus gnats and mosquitoes and stuff like that. The way to deal with that type of stuff outside is to not leave standing water. So I have bird baths and bee baths and stuff like that. I change the water every day. When I'm out there and I'm watering stuff and I'm filling my chicken waterers and that, I just hose out the bird bath, and the standing water doesn't allow for that type of stuff to develop. If you have a pond, put a fountain in it. So you can get, if it's not a big pond, you can get those like solar floating little fountains. All you need to do is have the water moving, and that breaks the surface tension. And what that does is prevents the larva from actually hatching out. And then you don't have the issues. So that's how you deal with it outside. And inside, stuff like this works just great. I hope that helps. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you here next time.